Hello and welcome to Tarot with Tanya. This is 7 cards for 7 days, and we are beginning with the 1st of January 2024 and going to the 7th, starting on that Monday. And we will have the moon in Virgo. And then we will end on that Sunday with the moon in Scorpio in the afternoon, and then switching to Sagittarius in the late afternoon. So I apologize for not getting on last week. To be honest, I just got overwhelmed with the whole holiday crush and just couldn't get it done. So sorry about that. And thank you so much for being here. And with any reading, please take it as it resonates for you. Leave behind what does not. It's a reading for the collective. So what fits you is great, and if it doesn't, that's fine too, and you'll know intuitively. This week on Monday, a couple of things happening in terms of the planets. We're going to have Venus squaring Saturn. So that can feel perhaps a little lonely. Venus is the part of us that wants to socialize, spread beauty, comfort, pleasure. And then Saturn wants us to get our stuff done. So it's a great day for rearranging things, to feel organized, get some of that Saturn energy going, and to do it in our personal spaces for that Venus kind of energy, things to make life at home more beautiful, more comfortable. And then the really good news is that Mercury turns direct. We could still have a little bit of, snafus with electronics or communications, things that Mercury rules. But in general, by Tuesday, that stuff should really all start to smooth out. And we have what's called the shadow period for about 3 weeks. And then it'll get back to where it was when it started its retrograde. But should be smooth sailing ahead in terms of that Mercury energy. And then on Thursday, the 4th, we have Mars entering Capricorn, and this will encourage us to act in sober and mature ways. There's that Saturn influence again, because Saturn rules Capricorn. We'll have persistence in our actions. So it's a kind of combo. If you need to get some things done that require action and discipline, that Mars in there can be very, very helpful. All right, so for the tarot for this week, this first week of 2024, hard to believe that's happening, I am using the Wildwood deck. And as an overview, we have some pairing going on. We have a couple of majors. We have a couple of sevens. We have a couple of, Earth energy cards, and I think that's all we've got for our pairs today. Yeah, otherwise things are pretty individual. All right, so just taking a look at that stuff. We begin with home. And I think that so fits that Monday, January 1st, Venus squaring Saturn kind of energy. Organize, enjoy home, make it more beautiful, be in the comfort of your own dwelling. And, it can be also a time, another way to look at that, to take that energy and make it useful for yourself, is to ask yourself, what does make you happy? What is here in my home, in my life, that does fit and that I want to keep and maybe rearrange or reorganize, or perhaps even discard. So this is a very earthy energy. It's stones in this Wildwood deck, but generally, we would think of it as discs or pentacles. And the 10, is a peak number in that minor arcana cycle. So that a very strong earthy energy, a very solid kind of home. And then on Tuesday, the 2nd, we have a Cups card. And in this deck, they're called vessels, and you could see them sitting there. An interesting grouping, including the skull. And this particular deck calls it mourning, as in grieving. But generally, associations with this card have to do with dreaminess, making choices, maybe not being quite sure of what's coming in, maybe really getting into our dreams to just see what's there. I started to use the word discerning, to try to be discerning about that, but it might not even be at that stage. It might just be more open. What am I dreaming? Sevens have that quality of, to me, things sort of moving around on the inside as we get ready to take some action. So it could be also connected to that idea of the new year. And what do we need to let go of? What do we want to nurture? What dreams can be discarded? What dreams can be pursued? So that could be a good way to use that energy on Tuesday. When we get to Wednesday, we've got that second 7. So as I mentioned, there are a few pairs going on this time. And now we're back to the stones energy, the earth energy. Again, discs, pentacles are typical words for that. And because, I just talked about the 7, so we already know something about that. And here we have a person in need of healing, I assume, the one who is down on the stone slab, and then a kind of green woman energy, a healer sitting slightly above him on a raised stone. And to me, it looks like meditating, perhaps channeling that sun energy behind her. And sometimes this card is seen as looking at our resources again. Taking stock, taking inventory. What do we have in this material way that makes us feel solid, that makes us feel secure? How can we do some healing work around that? And sometimes it's just gratitude. Generally, we have a lot more than we realize we have. And sometimes those are intangible qualities as well. If you have the ability to act and get things done, to me, you're a good manifester, which could be part of that energy of that 7 of stones. When we get to Thursday, we've switched directions in terms of the element, and now we're into the fire called bows in this deck. And this is the ace. So that's the beginning of that minor suit. So lots of strong energy to be expressed, to move forward with. And, it's interesting too, because that's also the day that Mars, the planet of fire and energy, rules Aries, the first sign of the zodiac, is moving into Capricorn. So, that's that can-do energy. Capricorn, earthy, practical, wants to accomplish things, tends to be good at business, structures, and then you add the fire with that, and it can be a very productive kind of day. Again, maybe you take the dreams that might have happened with the 7 of Cups and the 7 of Stones, and that energy to move forward, and you add that fire that can help get that done. And maybe that's the day that you start thinking more solidly too about what are my New Year's resolutions. And I encourage everyone to try to keep those more practical than usual, realistic, doable, not just, a bunch of things that you've been thinking about for 10 years, but, maybe haven't done. That would be me. But to try to get to those that are actually realistic for you. And, keep it simple too, and not overwhelming. Now we start to move toward the weekend. Here's our Friday card, and we get our first major. And this is the 9 in the majors, and it is in this deck called the Hooded Man. Frequently, it will be either the Hermit or the Crone if they're using a feminine figure for that. So, introspection is part of this, wisdom is part of this. It's a kind of pause on the journey to look inward. We have the figure kind of a bit like Gandalf here, walking toward, some sort of door and getting messages from the bird, a wren here. And wrens are considered spirit messengers, so they have things to tell us about what's going on in the unseen world. And this figure is very good at the unseen world. Like, we have no face, essentially, right? It's hooded because that's not, the important part. That could represent the ego, the self in a more personality direction, and this is something deeper, more within. So Friday could be a great day for some kind of introspection, spending a little time alone, meditating, looking for those answers that might just come from your deep intuition, your deep knowing. On Saturday, we move into another element, and this one would be air, signified by arrows in this deck. This is the king of this one, so that would be like the last. We talked about how the ace is the beginning, while the king then would be the end of the royal cards. I mean, you go through the 1 through 10 and the minors, and then we move into that other category in the same suit, but it's the people cards or the royal cards. And it could be a person, it could be a masculine, doesn't have to be male, but a masculine type energy enters the picture or rises up in the self to give you some guidance, some perspective. This can be someone very good with words, very good with ideas, with concepts, can come in and say the thing that nobody else has felt comfortable to say, the piercing insight. Of course, that can get a little sharp. We're talking arrows here, and normally it would be swords in many decks. So we want to watch for that sharpness. But coming right after that day, Friday, of wisdom, and the deep insights that can come from the Hermit card, or in this case, the Hooded Man, this might be very powerful expression of what was learned. So that could be a great way to use that. And I love kingfishers. Of course, that's a kingfisher bird on the card. And then last but not least, this is our next Sunday. And this is the seer, and she is, sorry for the glare there, she's number 2 in the majors. Of course, there's the Fool 0, the Magician 1. So we start with that holistic perspective of the Fool, the 0, and then we start to play with the magic in the 1. When we get to the 2, then we get into the more feminine area of the psychic abilities, the intuition, the knowing without formally knowing, just somehow you do, and it comes from deep within. Here she's doing a sort of scrying. And that means looking at a vessel of water and seeing what might be there to be seen, what's coming from inside the self. It could be taking the veil off of the eyes and again seeing into the unknown here. So very psychic, very intuitive, generally referred to as the priestess or the high priestess in most decks. So that's a very nice way to end the week. So we started with a happy home, with a good solid home on that Monday the 1st, and then when we come up to the 7th of the weekend, we are very much solidly into the intuitive self. So good week for the first week of the new year. No really big challenges at all. Turned out to be 4 minors, 2 majors, and 1 people card. So that's a pretty good balance as well. For an oracle card, I used the Crystal Angels deck, and Azurite was the card that came up for us. This is one of my favorites. I just absolutely love. I mean, here, of course, you're just getting a picture of it, a painting really, but it is such a, if you see it in person, such a deep blue, wonderful color. I just absolutely love it. So Azurite stands for deep emotional healing. This is a positive card showing that you're ready to process and move on from painful experiences and trauma. And maybe you haven't had that, recently or in a while, but I think it refers in this instance to the whole past year. Whatever happened, it's time to let it go best we can. I know there are residues that can take longer to, be released, to erode, to wear away somehow. But as best we can, this seems like a really good week to say, all right, I know this has happened. Yes, it might have been painful or, whatever, but I choose not to suffer from it any longer. So, this means that you're open to receiving healing energies and insights about your experiences. You're guided to devote time for your personal healing work. This may involve appointments with a therapist or healer, or spending extra time in meditation or any kind of self-care practices. It's also good for detoxification from chemicals, processed foods, any kind of negative influences. And this comes up very strongly right now. So as I said, it is just a beautiful card for this first week of January to get ourselves in a cleansed place, to let go of that old and to bring in the new. So, beloveds, I wish you a beautiful, wonderful week. I'll be back on track now, back weekly. And please consider sharing, liking, subscribing. I'd like to put new energy into this work, this channel this year, and to help all of us help ourselves. So, thanks for being here, and I'll see you again in a week.